What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We are here talking week 21 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel Conference Championship Edition. We have the Eagles taking on the 49ers in the NFC, then the Bengals and the Chiefs in the AFC, which is going to be a great game. Burrow versus Mahomes, arguably the two best quarterbacks in all of football facing off. So a lot to be excited about this weekend. This is also our last classic slate of the year before the showdown slate for the Super Bowl. So enjoy it while you can for those of you that don't like showdowns. But anyway, if this is your first time here, it took you long enough. The season's just about over. But my name is Chris Pennell. I break down NASCAR and NFL DFS each and every single week on this channel. In these videos specifically, what I like to do is go position by position with the small player pool that I have interest in. Although since it's a two-gamer, we'll probably just have about everyone on there and we'll kind of go through it briefly. But a lineup as progress through it more so for a single entry tournament build. Then at the end, I'll run my optimizer to see who's popping the most as of right now with the current projections and ownership projections that I currently have set in place. And hey, if that all sounds fine and dandy to you, it can be one small thing in return. Leaving a like on the video, subscribing to the channel if you are new, and feel free to leave a comment down below saying whatever you want to say. Be mean, be nice. I don't really care either way, but I'd love to hear from you. And as always, we will start with the quarterback position. I have to mention, if you want access to the sheets, the projections, optimizer, ownership, cheat sheet, Discord community, all that fun stuff, link down below in the description or the pinned comment. I do cover the sports as well, including the NBA, each and every single day. Baseball, when that starts up in a couple of months, and NASCAR, which I think you all know I love NASCAR. That's starting up in about a week for the Clash. Then the Daytona 500, which has a milli maker this season, 1 million to first, and someone from my group did win it last season. So when I come and check it all out, we do have all that starting very soon. But anyway, plugs aside, let's talk some quarterbacks here. We have a good group here. One is not like the other, Brock Purdy, definitely not on these other guys' level, but he's doing the job well for San Francisco. But yeah, I'd say getting a little bit lucky here and there. But the system for Kyle Shanahan can definitely mask some things done poorly by quarterbacks. You just have to be a decent game manager and you can definitely thrive in that situation. But we'll start up top with the one-legged man himself, Patrick Mahomes, 76 on DK, 85 over on FanDuel. We all know he's good at football. He's the MVP for the reason this year, minus 750, I believe, to win that. So it's kind of a shoo-in at this point. Either way, the only question mark here is how healthy is that ankle going to be? Because we know Patrick Mahomes uses his legs. He's not really a big rusher or anything. He can use his legs at times to pick up rushing yards. We've seen that a couple of times this year. But what makes him elite is how he can move in the pocket. He's an elite scrambler. It draws defenses in. He can just throw on the run exceptionally well off his back foot, on one leg, not looking, sidearm, whatever it may be. Patrick Mahomes uses that to advantage. So if he's going to have limited mobility, that definitely takes away his upside. And I think that's kind of evident if you're looking at the totals for some of the passing props this week. We usually see Patrick Mahomes sitting around that 300-yard mark, and I usually have him projected for over 300 passing yards, which he's averaging 310 on the season, but I think it's down to like 270-ish so far this week, so I think that makes sense, and I think the upside will be a little limited because we know he's not going to have full strength. It's just impossible after a high ankle sprain just about a week ago. Although we've seen him practice, or at least warm-ups, he didn't really have a noticeable limp, and when he was walking away from his press conference, it didn't look that bad, but that's not high intensity or anything. So, getting sacked, guys falling on it. We'll see how that holds up throughout the game. I'm sure they're going to have him on the finest drug cocktail of whatever painkillers they got for him. So we'll see what happens. I would just expect not 100% Mahomes, but if we can get like a 75% Mahomes, it's still a lot better than most quarterbacks in the league. And I don't have to tell you that he's good at football. Matchup is not great versus the Bengals, are allowing the third fewest points for getting into the quarterback position, but I typically don't care about matchups when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs or Patrick Mahomes. The only concern here is the ankle injury, which is why I'm probably going to lean more towards using Burrow over Patrick Mahomes because I get the $1,000 discount, and honestly, I think the upside is very, very similar. Their team totals are within 1 point. The Chiefs still have the highest, but if I look at my statted out sheet here, Burrow and Mahomes are basically the same here because I got Burrow for 282 yards and just about 2 passing touchdowns, good for 21.4 fantasy points. I got Patrick Mahomes down here for 273 yards, just at about 2 touchdowns and 21.3 points. So they're basically the same play in my opinion. They're in the same game, so you can stack it up basically the same. But I'm getting that $1,000 discount with Burrow, so that's kind of why I'm leaning that direction. Plus the matchup versus the Chiefs, it's pretty good. They're not good versus quarterbacks this year. I think they're bottom 5 in points allowed per game to the quarterback position. So for me, I'll play Mahomes in tournaments, sure. But if I'm playing a single entry or cash games, I would prefer going with Burrow over Mahomes because I just feel like there's less risk there, especially since he's not injured. Jalen Hurts at $7,200. If you are using an optimizer, if you're using my optimizer, he's going to pop up a ton because he is really cheap, $7,200, and he offers rushing upside like no other quarterback does on this slate. Now, the matchup versus the 49ers, it is not very good. That's the only concern, but his rushing upside can make up for it. The floor is always going to be high with him. The ceiling's very good as well. Had a great game versus the Giants last week. Kind of trailed off at the end because they just didn't have to do much because they were absolutely blowing them out, but he had around 20 fantasy points in the first half. I know the Eagles have faced a very soft schedule this year, so this will be a very tough task, but I mean, the Eagles have a very solid squad, and all around, they're a very good team. I'm still hoping the 49ers can win for all my best ball teams because I'm very heavy on the 49ers, but starting to get a little bit worried. But only 2.5-point dogs. I think they can get the job done, but we'll see. Wish the game wasn't on the road. But I like Hurts, obviously. Fine option if you don't play him in cash games. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Definitely the safest of the bunch. We already talked about Burrow. Just basically all the things I said about Mahomes can be translated to Burrow here. He just doesn't have an ankle injury. And then Brock Purdy, he is cheap at $5,300, but it's a tough spot. And I don't really think we need the value. And I say that because the slate this weekend, everyone's cheap. Like Mahomes is cheap, Hurts is cheap, Burrow is, Chase, Kelsey, even McCaffrey. You don't really have to spend too much money on these guys. So while the value is nice with Purdy, I just don't really think you need it. And consistently, he's not going to offer you that kind of ceiling that the other three quarterbacks can offer you. I know he had that huge game versus Seattle, but let's be honest, he kind of got a little bit lucky touchdown-wise with that. A couple wide open running backs in the flat, and Deebo Samuel, how deep was that pass? Like 10 or 15 yards, and Deebo does the rest of the work. So I'm not discrediting him. He's doing the job as good as you could ask for the last pick of the draft. So definitely my respects to him. It's just I don't really think we need the cheap quarterback play in this slate that offers us typically the least upside, just because everyone else is cheap, so it's really not that hard to get the stacks you want. And moving over to our lineup, I am fine with any of the three quarterbacks that we first talked about. I mean, yeah, Purdy, if I'm playing 150 max, which I typically do, I might get some shares of him, but probably going to be my least owned quarterback. I'll even take one-legged Mahomes over him. But we're going to plug in Burrow here. I really like that KC-Cincinnati game, so it's going to be a very heavy game stack of that. And we'll move on to the running backs. And really quick, I did forget to mention when talking about Burrow, Prize Picks, if you've never played over there, first off, you can get an instant deposit match bonus up to $100 if you use promo code CPEN. Oh, wrong way, CPEN. And using the link down below or over on prizepicks.com. But they are offering an awesome promo this week. So Joe Burrow only needs 0.5 passing yards. Hit the over on that, and you can win up to 10 times your money. Just depends on how many props you put together. But check it out if you haven't yet already. And again, make sure you use promo code CPEN and tell them I sent you. And it helps us both out. But make sure you take advantage of that promo. Take it with another prop that you like with one of the players I talk about. And then you're well on your way to winning some extra cash this weekend. Anyway, let's talk some running backs here, and not really the most exciting position. We do have CMC up top at 8K, which typically would be an amazing spot, price point for him, because that's just really cheap, and he does a lot of things well every single week. He gets a lot of work on the ground and a lot of work through the air, so you're kind of getting two players in one. The only concern I have this week is I kind of prefer Jamar Chase. I prefer Travis Kelce over him, and they're not dealing with injuries. CMC did not practice on Thursday. I'm recording this on Friday. I'm not sure what the news yet is on that, but he said there's a 0% chance he's not going to play or not going to not play. So he's going to be out there. My only concern is if he's limited, do I really want to pay K for him when I can just grab Jamar Chase, who's going to be a full go? Travis Kelce is going to be a full go. I'm sure CMC is not really going to be that hampered, but we saw late in the game versus Dallas where Eli Mitchell was getting the carries at the end of the game, and they have no problem giving Mitchell the ball if CMC is not fully good to go. So that's my only concern there. So yeah, I like CMC. If you're playing cash games, he's obviously the safe option, and projection-wise, he's going to pop up a lot. But personally for me, I think I'm going to force in Kelce and Chase over CMC in my lineups. But that's from a tournament perspective. Joe Mixon, $6,500, RB1 for the Bengals. He's not good. He's not good anymore. He's not efficient whatsoever. But he has been involved in the passing game quite a bit this year, which is nice. Getting about a handful of targets per game. And he's getting all the work on the ground for the most part. Samaje Perine got a decent amount of targets last week. I want to say he had 5 catches. So he's going to be involved slightly, but it's still the Joe Mixon show. And if they're on the goal line, he's going to be the guy that's getting first crack at it. So I think he's fine. And I think the Bengals will be able to put up a decent amount of points versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we have the Chiefs duo here of Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco, and we kind of know what they are by now. McKinnon's going to be the pass-catching back. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be the early down guy between the tackles, and decent shot of scoring a touchdown each and every single week because he is on pretty much the best offense in football. If I had to pick between the two, I like McKinnon on DK, probably Pacheco on FanDuel since it's not completely PPR scoring. You're only getting a half a point over on FanDuel, and touchdowns a little bit more important there, which I think Pacheco has a better chance of getting a touchdown over McKinnon. But if I'm on DK, probably preferring McKinnon. If I have Mahomes, I think it makes more sense to roster those two together since he's got the better pass catching upside. But I do think both are playable, but I'm probably not going to play both together. Miles Sanders is always a really annoying roster because there's like 5 other guys that get the football in that backfield. You have Jalen Hurts, you have Miles Sanders, you have Boston Scott, you have Kenneth Gainwell. And the one week I played Miles Sanders, I swear they gave Watkins like a few carries, which was really annoying. He's good with the work he gets, but it's just when they get around the goal line, just anyone's guess who it's going to be. And Jalen Hurts likes to steal a lot. But I will say, if you don't have Jalen Hurts, it might make sense to play Sanders because you're just hoping that Hurts isn't racking up rushing touchdowns, and hopefully that'll be Sanders for you. And then after that, it's just mainly the backups. If CMC is noted as limited for this game or something like that, you could play Mitchell, but I don't really see a reason to want to do that. So I'm probably not going to go below Sanders. And moving back over to our build, I don't really love playing Mixon and Burrow together, but on a small slate, we can kind of break some normal rules. Plus, he gets targets, so that's not the worst thing in the world. Maybe we can get a receiving touchdown out of Joe Mixon. And I would like probably one of the Chiefs running backs. I'm going to forego CMC on this build. And I think McKinnon makes more sense as a run back option there just because you get another extra pass catcher. Really, you could go with Pacheco. I think you're kind of splitting hairs there. But we're just going to roll with McKinnon. It's only a $100 difference, and if I had to change at the end, it wouldn't really be a big deal. And moving over to our pass catchers, I always try to keep this as simple as possible because it's just a waste of time, in my opinion, to go matchup by matchup, one-on-one spots. It's just play the guys that correlate with their quarterbacks, your game stacks, your run back options, and things like that. So if you're using Joe Burrow, which I am in my lineup here, I'm playing Jamar Chase. That's it. There's no way around it. I'm playing Jamar Chase. I'm playing T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Those are the guys I'm pairing with them. And on a slate like this, I typically want at least 2 pass catchers. So if you have access to an optimizer or my optimizer, I would make a rule personally where I want at least 2 of a wide receiver and tight end on the same team as my quarterback. And if you were using Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to make it 2 receivers because it's kind of just Travis Kelce and a bunch of wide receiver 7s on that team because they're just not good. Tony's got a lot of upside, but again, he's very hit or miss. But you're looking at Juju, Tony, MVS, Justin Watson. If you're using Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, that's one of the best wide receiver duos in the entire NFL. Maybe only behind Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. If you're using Brock Purdy, you got Debo and Ayuk, a couple other stragglers there at the bottom. And I don't think I'm forgetting anybody. So the nice thing is, though, with the Chiefs and Bengals game, you can really just plug in any quarterback and the stack works either way. Because if you're using Mahomes, you can still use Jamar Chase as a run back option. It's just kind of interchangeable for the most part. So that's what I really like about that game. But really, it all just comes down to what quarterback you're using and stick those guys together, and it all makes sense. But yeah, price-wise, as one-offs, T. Higgins, I like that price point quite a bit. Debo Samuel will be a popular one-off because I don't think a lot of people are going to use Brock Purdy. But if they want a piece from that game, Debo's going to get a ton of usage. And if CMC's kind of hobbled out there, which it seems like he has been so far this week, Debo might get some rushing attempts in this game, which I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And it just increases the upside for more touchdowns and more fantasy points. So I like Debo quite a bit as a one-off, even if you're not stacking that game up. T. Higgins like that price point. But really, outside of that, I'm just pairing my guys with my quarterback. And moving back over to our lineup, we got to get some pass catchers with our man Burrow. And obviously, Jamar Chase is going to be the clear-cut option here at $7,600. I just think he's too cheap. I mean, the upside he's got, and I cannot verify this, but didn't he have that absolutely monster game versus KC his rookie year? I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Huge game. That has nothing to do with this game, but I know people like to bring that up, which it's a waste of time. But it is something I remember vividly, I think. And after that, we could grab like a T. Higgins just to pair with Burrow again. But honestly, I'm going to leave that blank for now. We are going to use Travis Kelce in this lineup, and I think Hayden Hurst makes sense as well. So we're going to leave the rest blank, and then we'll move on to tight ends and defenses, and we'll circle back and fill the rest of this out. And obviously up top, we have one of the best tight ends of all time, not just on this slate. Travis Kelce, $7,800, caught like 14, 15 balls last week, nearly 40 fantasy points. Caught touchdowns from 2 different quarterbacks. The guy's just a beast. There's no way around it. Do I have to tell you that he's good? If I do, you're probably in the wrong place. But he's going to be a priority for me on this slate. He's just so good. Now, I'm not saying you have to lock him in every single lineup because Dallas Goedert's at a fair price point. If you're using Jalen Hurts, you probably want to get a Goddard in and you don't have to force-feed Kelce in there. But I'll be pretty heavy on this game, so that just means I'm going to have a lot of Kelce. George Kittle, I'm not sure I'm going to get to a lot of because he's just paired with the quarterback that I like the least. And I like Debo a lot from that game. So I feel like I'm just going to slightly less George Kittle because Goddard's $1,000 cheaper. And I feel like the upside's very similar. And I will have a heck of a lot more Jalen Hurts than I will Brock Purdy on this slate. And then Hayden Hurst is basically free and gets a handful of targets and has one of the best quarterbacks in football throwing the ball. So for me, to rank them as far as my own exposure, I feel like it's going to end up being like Kelsey, Goddard, Hurst, Kittle. But I can't set that set in stone yet, but I think Kittle will be my least favorite. And then defenses, if anyone pretends like they know what they're talking about with defenses and says this one's way better than the other, they're just lying. It's just all luck for defenses for the most part. If I had to pick one, like if I had to rank these guys, it's probably going to be Eagles, 49ers, and then Bengals, Chiefs. I only say Bengals above Chiefs because, if Mahomes gets knocked out of the game or is really hobbled and they get him injured at some point, I mean, I'd rather have the Bengals than I would the Chiefs versus the Bengals stack. But really, it all just comes down to whatever fits at the end. I wouldn't have a problem with any. But if you are stacking a team, do not play the defense against it because that just makes no sense. So moving back over to our build, we're going to plug in Travis Kelce just right now so we know what kind of money we have to work with. That puts us under 4K. I think I want to play Hayden Hurst with Joe Burrow. He's just really cheap and the targets are there. I think he's one of the better value plays. And I did notice he had a questionable tag at one point, but that is now gone, so that's good to see. Defense, we got to plug a cheap one in. Eagles or 49ers, I am fine with either. Let's just plug in the 49ers for now, I guess, and we'll see what fits. Just under 5K left for the last two spots. I wouldn't mind getting another pass catcher with Burrow, but we already have 2.5 with Joe Mixon. So it's not a complete necessity, and we have 2 run back options with McKinnon and Kelce. So we're kind of wide open with what we can do here. If you wanted to play Deebo Samuel, which I wouldn't mind that at all, we can plug him in, and we'd have $4,200 left, and you're left with Tyler Boyd, Kadarius Toney, which doesn't seem bad for this build because we can plug in Boyd and we get another pass catcher with Burrow, and I don't think that's a terrible looking lineup. If you wanted to play T. Higgins instead of Deebo, since you have Joe Burrow, you could go there. You probably want to take out Tyler Boyd because you don't want to go too overboard in the Bengals. And it looks like you could afford a guy like Brandon Ayuk if you wanted, and then that's really about it. But I don't think it's a bad looking lineup. It's always going to look a little bit weird on a 2-gamer, but don't just copy and paste this. I play 150 every single week. I do some single entry and 3-max, but on these small slates, I kind of prefer doing the MME. So just copy and paste what you see. Think for yourself. Build your own lineup. I'm just trying to see what fits as we talk through it. Like I said in the beginning, I just want to run the optimizer at the end to see who's popping the most as of right now. I have no rules, no settings, no groups or anything like that. So don't look at the lineups necessarily because they're probably not going to look that great for tournaments. But we had this running while I was talking, so let's just see what popped up. So it looks like a lot of Dallas Goedert, lots of Jalen Hurts. Like I said, though, Hurts is going to, if you're using an optimizer, Hurts is going to pop up a ton. It'd be impossible not to at that price point with his rushing upside. Tons of Chase, tons of Mixon, a lot more Ayuk than I thought. I guess he's fitting a lot of builds. CMC's pretty high, which probably nuked Travis Kelce. He is down to 36%. I'd personally rather have more Kelce than CMC, but that's just me. But not really too surprised at who's popping here. I think it all makes sense. Looking at the teams, 34% Cincy the most, then Philly, KC and San Francisco tied for the least there. So yeah, I mean, it all comes down to personal preference. You have to mix around your exposures a little bit. And if you want access to this to do that, you build 150, set your randomness, groups, things like that. Links down below in the description or the pinned comment. But with that being said, guys, that'll be it for the video. I hope you did enjoy. And if you did, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. Appreciate everyone here that's been here all season long. And if you're brand new, well, I appreciate you being here now. But I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.